So I guess let's just start off by telling me kind of, I mean, I know some of these things, but I'm going to have you tell it again anyways. So where you grew up, kind of just when you were born. We'll just start kind of from the very beginning. And you look at me when you talk.
You want to start with Audrey first or me?
You can go first.
Okay.
We'll let Grandma ease into it.
Okay. Well, I was born in Madison County in north of Lake Powell, about 5 miles, on what is now the McClinic farm, or was at that time, and I think it's still in the family someplace along the line. Born in 1925. And
Were you born at the house?
born at the house, yes. And on August 28th, 1925. So, and Dad went after the doctor, I guess, at Noblesville, Dr. Hanna. He was an uncle, so he delivered the family. And Dad and Mom were farmers, and both grandpas were farmers. And when I grew up, I enjoyed hoeing weeds in the garden. Grandma would give me a penny if I'd go out and hoe weeds. And Grandpa would give me 10 cents if I hoed weeds out of the cornfield. So that's the way I made my money. And Roy Anderson would give me 25 cents if I'd hoe milk weeds out of the oats field. So that was rich. I was rich then when I got to 25 cents a week.
Austin doesn't know how good he's got it.
Money was worth a lot more than it is today. Today you throw the pennies away.
Grandma?
Well, I was born in 1934. I've got 5 siblings, 2 sisters, 3 brothers, and I grew up out in the country, but not on the farm. So, as far as a farm girl, I was not until I got married. But we went to a little schoolhouse. I graduated with only 9 in my senior class.
Where were you born at?
I was born at Newcastle.
At home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there was 6 of us, and my dad died when I was 6. So that left my mother with a big responsibility, but she raised us all. And then when I married him, he finished it off.
She was still in the 3rd grade when I graduated.
Do you have to tell that?
That's okay. You know, I don't have any problems with that.
No, you don't.
Well, growing up, Grandpa, what was, talk a little bit more about what it was like on the farm and with, Ned and Merrill and...
I enjoyed farming, and I enjoyed hoeing weeds in the garden, and I enjoyed cutting weeds out of the oats field and the cornfield. I guess a lot of people thought that was work, but I did it for fun, I guess you might say. I always did enjoy that type of work. And I had an older brother that was about twice my size, but he was only 2.5 years older than I was. But when he was 8 years old, he was able to take 3 horses to the field and hitch to a harrow and harrowed the whole field and walk behind the harrow and guide the horses back and forth.
What is that you're talking about?
That would be a wooden harrow. You took 3 of them together, and they were 4 feet long, but so they would have 12 feet. But they didn't have a seat on them, and the person that had the lines to the horses walked behind the horses and harrowed the whole field. And he was 8 years old then at the time.
Wow.
Had the responsibility. But after you learned about horses, horses more or less knew what to do without guiding after they were trained. You'd go G and haw, and haw means right and G means left, and they'd turn around at the end of the field. All you had to do is keep the line straight and keep the line across the
Like,
field.
Electronic GPS, right?
So
A little bit different.
a little different. But it was entirely a different type of farming than we do today. It took a lot more manpower, a lot more personal manpower. Now you use high tech and technology and all that kind of stuff, you know. But
Did you boys ever get into any trouble?
I guess they was mostly big families, you know, six or more in a family. Ours, we just had 3 boys, but in our family. But the big families, they had to have something to do. Of course, in the wintertime, they chopped wood. They used the wood for the heating and clearing the land, the forests, and that's the way the country was put together, I guess.
Did you guys ever get into any trouble?
Right now, I don't think of any. It was after we got older we got in trouble.
What'd you get in trouble for?
Girls, I guess. We didn't know what to do with girls. We was raised with 3 boys, and we didn't know what the girls wanted, and they didn't know us, so we was always in trouble.
Well, Grandma, what, any story, you know, do you have a first memory back growing up? And
No, I can't.
is there something that maybe sticks out with your sisters?
No.
Did you borrow clothes?
We just went to school and come home, and Mother always had something for us to do, and you know, you had a big family. Of course, it just got bigger and bigger as the older we got.
What was your least favorite chore?
Well, actually, I think I was spoilt. Mother, by the time I got home from school, most of the time I didn't do anything but my lessons. You know, you didn't come home at school at 3 o'clock like they do today. Sometimes we didn't get home till like almost 4:30 because you didn't go to school till almost 9 o'clock. So in the winter, well, it was dark almost when you got home. But we lived near a big old creek down in the bottom, down by our house. And in the summer, we played down there and went fishing and swimming, just those things.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't go to big fancy cities and the zoos or museums or anything like that, because there was just too many of us, and Mother couldn't manage to take all of us. But it was good. It was all right.
Grandma, tell me the story again that you just told me a couple of days ago about you and Merrill taking Babe and going to Fishers.
Well, we lived 5 miles from Fishers and 5 miles from Noblesville, and right at the corner of Promise Road and 141st Street. And one Sunday, we had a pony and a buggy, and Merrill and I, Mother fixed us a lunch, and we took the corn and hay for the pony and drove to Fishers. Well, it took all morning to drive the 5 miles down to Fishers. We knew some people by the name of Beaver that lived in Fishers. Fishers had 202 people in it at that time. And we played ball with them a little bit at the Fisher School, which is the old Fisher School. It's still sitting, but it's sitting almost run over by the 69. But, and then after dinner, of course, I started home about 2 o'clock, got home about a little after 6 in the evening. But the pony was tired, and because that was a long trip for him. But when you think about it, nobody ever passed us. There was no cars on the road. There was a horse and buggy once in a while that you'd meet, but you didn't have very many traffic problems like you got today.
When did you guys get your first car?
Dad got I think had a first car in 1925, a Model T, and then we bought a 1938 Chevrolet, and I probably that 38 Chevrolet was first actual car that we went very far with. Yeah. They would go, when we lived north of Les Pelles, Dad'd go to town maybe once every 2 weeks or something like that, in that Model T. Other than that, most people at that time went with horse and buggy, traveled. And they almost never went to Anderson because it was too far. It was about 8 miles to Anderson, but it was too far to go and come back the same day. So
Crazy to think about. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Our lifetime, we saw lots of changes. Yeah.
So how old were you then when you went off to the war?
19. I was went in 44. I graduated in 1943, but our house burnt on January the 8th, 1944, and I was in the 1A category, and all the people in my class was in that 1A category. But the house burnt, and Mr. Whitcomb was the service personnel manager in Hamilton County, and he let me have 6 months off before, so I didn't go till August 1944. But some of the people, or the other members of my class, were 6 months ahead, and some of them, the one boy, Ben Davis, got killed in France when they invaded France in 1944, and Oscar Mossman went to the Pacific, and he was in the invasion of Philippines in the second, when they recaptured the Philippines. So, and several of the class members were in the Navy.
But you were in the Army, right?
Durward Woods, when I was in Hawaii, Durward Woods was in the Navy, and his ship came into Pearl Harbor, and I was on patrol one night and saw him on the streets in Pearl Harbor, and we got together, and their ship was in for repairs or something like that, and it was a destroyer, small type battleship, you know, and I got to go out to Pearl Harbor and see where his quarters were on the ship. Of course, the quarters on a ship were hammocks on the inside of the ship, and it was just about as big as I'd say it was 4 feet wide and 10 feet long, and that was his quarters. And when they'd go out, they'd be gone for 6 months sometimes and come back in. But they had to live in that quarters. Wow. And the ship that we went out on left from Portland, Oregon, went down the river into the ocean, and there was over 1,000, I guess 1,200 on that ship going over, and he was quartered in hammocks on that ship, and all over it, and they didn't have a good system of air movement, and it stunk worse than any hog barn you ever heard the tell of. I mean, you had to go back out on top to get a good breath.
And
And
that's where they
you know, we
slept?
was on that ship going out to Hawaii in 10 days. But some of those guys were on those ships 45 days. Now, how those guys ever lived through that, I'll ever know. Because it would just been horrible. Those guys that went into battle, how they come off of those ships with any health reasons. I mean, it just amazed me that they could come out of those ships and fight a war. Because just be from sickness. I mean, it didn't have to be from gunfire.
Now, how long were you stationed in Hawaii?
I was in there about, let me see, I come home in November of the next year, so that'd have been in 46, I guess it was. And no, 40, I was out there in 45. Yeah, 46 was when I come home. Yeah, because I was went swimming on Christmas Day in Honolulu there on the beach, Waikiki Beach, the famous beach, you know. At that
I think he was on vacation the entire time.
I was on vacation.
He spent vacation in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Compliments of Uncle Sam.
Well, I would have enjoyed it too. If I
Paid
was-
for it, yeah.
You had to make some fun out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Now then, when you came home, when did you guys meet?
Well, let me see, in 1953, wasn't it, or 52?
I think it was 52, in the fall of 52.
So what did you do in between that time? You're just waiting on the right one, huh?
I was all over the world.
Yeah.
met girls here and there, you know. Mostly there. That's when I was doing everything I shouldn't have done. So,
Where did you travel to?
well, I belonged to the Rural Youth Club. What they had, it was sponsored by Purdue University, and it was all people our age, and we went square dancing every week someplace, and took trips to Cuba and Florida in 1948, I guess it was.
I didn't know you did all that.
That was a 16-day trip, yeah.
Wow.
But someplace I thought you did get out those pictures. Maybe they're all gone. I don't know.
I didn't see any pictures from Cuba.
I
Must have hid all those.
I think they're down on the bottom shelf under something in the cupboard where they're going to stay.
So then, how did you meet? You two.
We met at a square dance.
Square dance at Orestes, Indiana. And if you know where Orestes is, that's up on 28 east of Elwood.
Never heard of it.
That's where the
Red Gold.
tomato factories are.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I guess we went, they would groups from Hamilton County, and well, 8 counties in this district. There was Hamilton and Hancock and Henry and Wayne and Marion and Madison.
So it was her dancing moves that got you.
Did you ever go to a square dance?
I remember square dancing. They would make us square dance in elementary school. Did they ever make you do that? I remember that. They used to pair us up and they would make us square dance in elementary school.
I see.
That's the only square dancing I know. I know line dances.
Well, square dances were quite popular. I used to call square dances one time.
Really?
Yeah. I was never real good at it, but I could call square dances. Probably I called square dances that night arrest us. Do you remember?
I don't remember anything. 60 years ago is a long time.
Well, do you remember anything from that night, Grandma?
No, just that I met him, and I think the next week or that evening he said, well, "When's your rural youth meeting next?" And I said, "Well, I think it's next week at Greenfield." So he came down to Greenfield and met me and took me home, and that was the beginning.
So how long? What you didn't call it dating then, right? What did
Yeah, we did.
Did you?
Mhm.
Okay. How long did you date then?
Well, let's see. I think about a year and a half.
She hadn't graduated yet. I still
Hard to believe, isn't it? He should have been arrested for running around with a little young girl at his age. Oh well. Yeah. But it turned out just fine.
So what did you guys do when you dated? Did you take her to more square dances, or what was the thing?
Mostly went to meetings, didn't we?
Yeah, well, we
We
went
went to a
out to
show.
Indianapolis to the, at that time called the Circle Theater, and of course now I don't know for sure what it's called. They've changed the titles to the big theater on the Circle now, and we went to state parks with other groups, and anyway, that's about things that we did.
So when did you propose?
I
Do
don't
you
remember.
I don't either.
How did you propose then? Do you remember?
He just said, "Would you marry me?" I said, "Sure." I think. I must had.
Did you do a big production?
Where we are. No, it was nothing like moonlight and champagne.
Stop in the middle of the road, probably.
Yeah, probably did.
So then, planning a wedding. What was it like planning a wedding back then?
Well, it's just like what the girls do today. You just get together with the mothers and set dates, and went down to L.S. Ayres, got my wedding gown. Couldn't find any because I was so little. Only weighed about 95 pounds.
She had to be wet to do that.
Oh,
She didn't weigh that much.
no, I was real little. I think my dress was a 0. And then they had to alter it. They probably wondered who would be marrying this little girl, but we had a beautiful wedding. We went to New Orleans on our honeymoon.
Where did you get married at?
We got married at the Christian Church in Greenfield on New Year's Day. Everybody says, "Well, why would you pick New Year's Day?" I said, "Well, there was no football games back in 1953 on New Year's Day. This is where families got together. And people had the day off, and so that's what we did."
Turned out to be a good day.
Yeah. It was a beautiful day when we started out. I think we were married on a Wednesday, I believe. And beautiful weather. And that evening was a big snowstorm. So,
Did you leave right after the wedding?
Mhm.
The party together?
yeah.
They have some pretty cool pictures of the car all
Yeah.
done up. Well, there's one picture of you guys leaving the church, and you've got your hat box, and they're
Mm-hmm.
throwing rice, which they're not supposed to do anymore.
No.
Had some really good pictures.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember anything in particular about the day?
Well, I know I had my grandmothers there, and of course all my brothers and sisters. But it was a beautiful wedding. I can remember that. We had a lot of people.
Did you open gifts there?
Oh yes,
They did at
you
that
had
time.
open gifts, and
At that time, yeah.
I think we got 6 clocks and 7 silver trays.
Yeah. They wanted us to get up
A
on
clock
time.
for every room in the house, and I think we had some left over, didn't we?
No gift register.
Yeah. No, you.
So then when you came back from your honeymoon, where did you live?
There in the house there where we on 38.
Okay. And what's the when you said there was a fire? Which house?
Well, the big house we lived there
Oh, in the
with
well?
in that house, but it burnt on January the 8th, 1944. Yeah, January 8th, 1944, I guess it was, because it was on Ned's birthday, and it was a big house, a 11-room house, and then they built that house in there in 44 before I went to the Army, because I helped dig the foundations and help put the sewers in. And
But you lived in a cabin down on Cicero Creek when they built the house.
yeah, well, it's up where the lake is now, and we had a chicken house out behind a barn. Of course, we had chickens, and the cattle and the hogs to take care of, and so I stayed in the chicken house at night to just look after the farm. For the 6 months, put a cot in there, and that's where I slept.
In the chicken house.
In a chicken house. It's a brooder house, you know. It's where but they had a brooder stove in there. It was warm. We could keep it warm.
Were there any rats in there? I remember there were rats in the chicken house at the old place.
And no rats. I mean, now they was underneath the thing, but they're not out where I was at. And
So then what year was Roger born? Because he was, I don't think you guys were.
54, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
January
January the 6th. We tell everybody we got married January the 1st and had Roger on the 6th.
January the 6th.
Year later, of course.
And Randy,
And
February.
Randy came February the 7th, and we waited a year, and Ross came March the 4th, and then next year Leah came April 7th. So we stopped in April. We didn't think we'd go completely down the calendar.
You were working your way.
Yeah, we got through April, and that was it.
Well, talk about maybe like when you moved to the place out on 38 out there, and because some of those pictures, the farm is it's really cool farm, and what it was like living out there and raising the kids.
Well, we moved there, let me see, in 1939. Dad rented that farm in 1939. And then Merrill went to the Army in 41, the day after he enlisted in the Air Force, the day after Pearl Harbor. And then I didn't go till 44, I guess it was. And they was course, the war was on, and lots of changes taking place worldwide and around here too. And when I came home from the Army, I didn't know it, but Dad was sick, and the neighbors had come in and picked Dad's corn and helped him out, because Merrill had been in the Air Force for 5 years, and when he came home, he got married and moved to Indianapolis. And so, but that was a big awakening for me. When I come home, Dad couldn't work, so I had to do whatever it took to take care of the cattle and hogs and the chickens and myself, and I wasn't quite prepared for it, I guess. And Mother had tried to write Merrill every day and write me every day, which was she tried to and almost did, but she never mentioned Dad being sick, and his kidneys went bad, and he lived till 51, but he died when he was 47 years old. So a lot of the things that I did got changed real quick. I mean, just everyday living, you know. Everyday outlook, and what you did and what you didn't do.
So then you guys moved in
53.
53.
53.
So you've been taking care of it for a while.
And Mother moved to Noblesville, up on Lincoln Street there. And then she worked at the hospital and worked at Hoosier Dairy and took care of, babysit for people up there in that neighborhood. And she done real well. And then Grandpa and Grandma got sick. She moved out. Well, Grandpa died in '66. So she went out there and stayed with Grandma. Grandma didn't die till 86, I guess it was. 84, 86, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I think I was alive when, because I think there's some pictures
Mm-hmm.
of us grandkids running around with both of them. And that was out there at Durban?
Out at Durban, yeah.
Well, we lived out there ourselves for what, 40? I think I lived there on 38 and 44 years, maybe. Maybe longer. But you've lived out there
Since '39
since 39.
till 90. What we 96?
We moved
to-
up here.
Yeah, 96, yeah.
The winter of December of 96.
Raising the kids on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Were they, what was that like? Were they always, well, I know one was always getting into trouble, but
Yeah, they were always
Their boys,
3 boys, all same age.
they all were good workers, and
Yeah.
everybody worked. And
Well, once in a while, one of them would say, I'm going to go to town and get a job. Make them lots of money. Well, that didn't last very long. They were back. They felt like their dad wasn't so hard on them after all. Having another boss kind of got on their nerves a little.
any stories stick out, memories that stick
Oh,
out?
there's too many. You can't even.
What about,
I should have kept a diary.
You could have wrote a book.
Yeah, I could have.
What about, did they ever collectively, all 3 of them, get in trouble together? Do anything that they weren't supposed to?
Oh, I'm sure they did. Yeah.
How did Dad, I saw a picture he had, well, with that picture that I saw with you, he had his, I think it was his right arm, broke his right arm, and then he's bottle feeding a baby raccoon.
Well, we had lots of broken arms and legs, and
Ross broke his arm, but falling out of the tree, didn't he?
you know, Randy broke his arm.
Let me see.
They all had accidents. Roger was always getting hurt in football. Even Leah, she was right up there with them. She was a tomboy.
The showing cattle at the fairs, I don't believe they ever really got hurt showing
No.
cattle, but then we had some wild cattle sometimes that we had trouble holding.
Hold them down.
I think we even had some of those when I was in 4-H.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some pictures of the boys down at the state fair.
There he is.
At least that's what the description said.
Uh-huh. Well, good.
Talk a little bit about when you started. I'm going to switch subjects a little bit about when you started with 4-H and volunteering.
Well, as soon as I was in 4-H, you know, when I was 10 years old, I mean, as far as being a member, and we joined when they lived down there in Fall Creek Township, down there, little that Klepfer School. And Merrill and I had calves the first year, but we wasn't able to get them tamed to show, so we didn't show in 35, but we showed in 36, 1936. And Merrill had a steer calf that year that got fourth in his place down State Fair. And that was the highest that we ever got any place in showing at the State Fair. Now, at that time, the 4-H fair, well, in 36, that they showed out at the Forest Park out there at Ball Diamond. They had tents out there. And they housed the girls' projects in the old armory, which is where across from where the present government center is there. And they, in 35, we didn't show, but they had the fair around the circle, or there at Noblesville, and housed the cattle in the livery stables, and housed the hogs in tents there on Logan Street. And at that time, we still had several livery stables around town, and they also showed lots of horses at that time, and colts, draft horses, not riding horses, draft horses, the pulling type, you know. And then it was 1948 before we moved out there to where the present grounds are. So, and I was always interested in 4-H before I left, and when I come home, I got right back into it as a leader, and worked with the ag teacher there at Noblesville, and been a leader ever since. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some pictures. There's a picture I think it must have been. It had been right when the new fairgrounds was built, because it was at the new fairgrounds, and it's the two of you, and then it must have been your mom, but it was another couple, but they looked much older. I couldn't, and then there was no description on the back, but out at the fair.
Oh,
Maybe.
would it be Amsets, or did you know the Amsets?
It wasn't them.
Well,
They were much older than you guys in the picture. I'll have to get it for you.
now, Francis Beck and his wife were very active at that time, too.
Okay, I'll have to look at it. Well, let's talk more about the farm, and what was your favorite part? Just farming in general. What was your most favorite thing to do on the farm?
The cattle was always my interest, biggest part of it, yeah. The Angus cattle. And I guess you'd say the chickens second, because we always sold the eggs at the door there when I lived on 38. And that was our biggest income. And we always had to keep 300 hens, and we'd sell the eggs there at the door. And people would stop and leave the money and take the eggs take them out of the basket, and they just forage that way, and people like that. So,
How much did you sell the eggs for?
oh, I think we started out a quarter a dozen, but we finally got up to about 50 cents a dozen, I think, at that time, which was a good price. Now, you have to understand that eggs had to be candled, and you'd have a lot of call eggs, and a lot of times we'd just give them away to people that would feed them to their cats and dogs or something like that. They were cracked eggs and dirty eggs and stuff like that. So, but you'd have them in a carton or in a basket out there on the back porch, and people pick them out themselves. They liked the idea of picking them out, you know.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember Leslie and I got in trouble one time. It was the only time I ever remember you yelling.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
What,
We
what-
were hiding. We were sitting on the top step of the basement stairs, and we were cleaning. There's something about cleaning those eggs. You just always wanted to. And then you opened the door and found us, and you yelled at us to get out of there and quit messing with the eggs.
Oh, you was cleaning them.
We were cleaning them. I think you were afraid we were probably going to break them.
I expect that was it.
Yeah, but I remember that.
Yeah. And at one time we raised a lot of garden there, and Mother would sell garden things at the door. Now, my mother started the egg business, there when she lived there, so, and we just inherited it, and it was very good for several years. If you do that today, I don't know whether it'd be very good or not. I don't know whether people would stop and buy eggs from you or not. But
I don't think the government let you do it today.
I think people today, some people have bought chickens and they get the eggs just for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Kind
a
of
lot of people do that. Yeah.
Hobby. There's something about the hobby farming and raising your own stuff now.
Uh-huh.
Afraid of
I seen
booze.
a sign in Boxley the other day. Brown eggs, $2. That was in Boxley. If you know where Boxley's at. So somebody's still doing it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. The equipment's changed a lot over the years.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for chickens and of course the really big egg farmers are really big. They got several thousands. Hen houses and huge operations.
I remember in the old barn remember how you had that rope
Yeah.
and we'd swing. Did the kids always, was that rope there for a long time?
Oh yeah. That was what you took the hay up into the mow with, and you always had a hay rope, and when the hay rope wore out, you put a new one in, because that's the way you got the hay into the mow. Yeah. And hitch the horse to the rope and pull it up on a series of pulleys, and that's the way you got it in there. Used it every year. I guess all the barns that I can remember had a hay rope, and a hay fork, and even when I was a little kid, I can remember Dad and the fellows putting hay in the mow with a hay fork. The hay forks changed. It used to be just double, and then they finally got 6 prongs. And they'd take up a bigger clump of hay, but it wouldn't before the baled hay. Then we got to putting baled hay up. So they'd take we'd take eight bales up at a time with a hay fork.
That was a cool little barn over there.
Oh yeah.
The red barn.
I'd like to see in that barn. I haven't looked in there for 20 years, but I'd like to see what they've done, because they went inside that barn and took it out, and they put doors on the end of it, so you could put trucks or something
I
inside of
wish
it.
they would have kept it the red color and try to just
But
fix it up, but they,
you know, that barn had sills in it to hand huge hills of 2 feet square in some of it. And I suppose they're still there. I'd like to look in there and see if there was. But that was a bank barn, and you had to drive up into the barn with the tractor with the horses at one time. And that wall was 3 foot thick and was made out of stone and mortar. And then they had the ramp of dirt up there. And over the years, freezing and thawing pushed that wall in a little bit. And they had to go inside there and strengthen that to keep that from pushing the barn over. And I wondered what they've done since we moved away from there. Maybe they took that ramp all the way away from there. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. Do you guys want anything to drink? Any water?
No.
Are you good?
Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay, just thought I'd ask. Well, let's see here. What else haven't I asked? I made a list of questions, but I.
Pushed him down the hay mow. Down on
I don't think this is in the picture. But you can look at it.
Doggy's arm pushed him down
Shoot.
the chute in the barn.
We never told anybody about it.
Oh, they did some wild things. You couldn't keep track of 3 boys.
Dad told me something about you yesterday, Grandma.
Oh, I'm anxious to hear it.
He said that. Are you good still?
Yep.
He said that you were on a game show.
You on a what?
Yes, I believe I was.
That Grandma was on a game show.
Mm-hmm. Live TV.
When was that? See, you're used to the cameras. When was that?
Well, I about forgot all about it. I don't know how he remembered it. I think it was through our home ec club or something that we all went down to Indianapolis, and it was a game show, and you got received money for it that we gave to something that contributed to. But that's been a long time ago.
Did you win?
I don't know. Like I say, I've forgotten all about that.
Dad remembered.
Yes, he did.
Maybe he knew how much the trio won. Or didn't win.
Yeah.
And then did you do? I don't know if I saw this on one of the pictures, but did you do modeling too?
Mm-hmm. Before I married your grandpa, I modeled shoes because my foot was like shoe size was like 4.5. So yes, I did.
So who did you model shoes for?
Well, I went to a finishing school, or what was the name of that, Paul? Anyway, that's what I did. The salesmen would come in to Indianapolis for their shoe conventions or whatever, and they needed somebody to parade up and down the aisle, and that's what I did. They would all just bring one size shoe, so I would, and brought in a little money. Yeah.
How did you get? Someone just see your foot and go, "Oh, Audrey, you just have the most
Yeah,
perfect foot."
yeah, that's right. I think that's what they did. Well, being little, you just had a little foot. But after having children, it went up size 6 real quick. I just inched my way up with every child, different shoe size.
I heard you got in the combine the other day, Grandpa.
Yep. I got up in the fan back.
Did you know that, Grandma?
And
I heard him tell somebody the other day.
that's quite an experience today.
When was the last time you'd been in a combine?
Oh, gosh. I'd say at least 10 years since I've been in the combine. I used to run them all the time, but I don't think I've needed to be in a combine for the last 10 years for any reason. Boys have always run them. And they've changed so much. I got the first combine, I think, in 1947. The year I got home from the Army. And it was a 6-foot John Deere combine, pull type. And you could, if you done real good in a day, you could get 10 acres with it. But now you can have those big ones, you combine 200 acres, I guess, if you keep it going.
Yeah. What do you remember about Beck's? You've talked about Francis Beck.
I bought the first bag of hybrid seed corn from Beck for $7 in 1948, I believe it was. 1947, 48. Yeah. And that I had bought the hybrid seed. See, prior to the hybrid seed being popular, people just would keep their own ears. When they would shovel the ear corn out of the wagon, they would pick out the best ears and pitch them to the side and keep them all winter long. Then they'd shell them in the wintertime when they didn't have anything else to do. And they kept their own seed corn that way. And that was the way they improved. Supposedly, they keep their best ears, and the next year, it wasn't always true, but that's what they did anyway. And then hybrid seed corn come out and took over the business, but it took several years. And I guess Francis Beck's family were some of the first ones that raised hybrid seed corn in Hamilton County. So.
Did Francis come out and sell it to you?
No, I don't remember of them ever being a salesman. I mean, other than they was always involved in 4-H, and I was always involved in 4-H, and through that relationship is the reason why I bought the first bag of seed corn from them, and it turned out good, and we always stayed with them. And Francis and his wife and the family always was involved in 4-H, and I'd see him at the fairs, you know, and was always in an extension work. Mrs. Beck was very strong in extension work out there, and their family always had a lot of money compared to other people, and they always gave a lot of finances to the 4-H program and the extension program and the home economics women's program. So that's the way I became acquainted with them. I did the work, they did the money.
Hasn't changed.
No. Some of the pictures I found a couple of good ones of, it was around Christmas time, and I think it was just, you must have been probably pregnant with Uncle Ross, but it was Uncle Roger and Dad in the picture, and there are all sorts of little toys around, tractors, and it was a good picture of you guys at Christmas. You had on bib overalls. You had on this hat that looked like a railroad hat. I don't remember what, but looked like the boys were having fun. You were helping them, teaching them how to run the tractor on the ground.
Or a train or something like that.
No, they're tractors. They're green tractors.
Those tractors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of the pictures that I found are of they're either Uncle Roger and Dad together and all the kids together, and good pictures of all of them. Any other memories, funny stories about all of them together?
Did you find any pictures of Roger when he was in Riley Hospital? Or Randy when he shot himself?
Yeah, that's my dad.
We don't want to bring those things up, Paul.
I didn't know.
No, I
No,
saw just the one picture of the broken arm.
Well, no, Ross broke his arm too, but then I fell out of that tree. But Randy must have fell out of the hay mow or got
No,
pushed
I think
down.
Ross pushed him out.
Pushed him down the chute down there, hay chute, I expect.
Pushed him down that hole that you throw the things through
hay.
to the bottom of the barn. Mercy.
So then, did you have to haul him into town, or did the doctor?
Well, yes.
Yeah,
They
you
knew
did.
us when they saw us coming. They knew
They knew someone
here
broke
was the
something.
Woodwards coming in with their broken children.
Leah, when she bit her tongue off,
Just about.
Didn't they shoot Aunt Leah in the butt with a BB gun or something?
Mm-hmm.
Ornery.
Who's the person that shot himself?
That's my dad.
Oh, that's that's a gory story.
they was practicing quick gun, you know, and they twirling, and it was down to the creek, and somehow or other it went off when it wasn't supposed to or something. Shot him through the hip there, and it connected the artery in the vein in his leg, and when they took him to the hospital, the shell fell out of the pants on the floor, and his leg would just jump every time his heart would beat. His leg would jump, and it jumped and jumped. They had to take him to Indianapolis and put the surgeons down there put those I don't know, disconnected them somewhere or other, and his leg was all right.
Dad wonders where Austin's the way he is. Well, he's looking at himself.
Yeah. That's you.
Keep from sneezing.
Didn't know if that was a yawn or a sneeze.
I think he's putting himself to sleep. Not hard to do.
When you look back on everything, and what do you think is maybe the biggest accomplishment or proudest moment or something that maybe stands out in your life?
We are very lucky, our family, and I've often wondered why, because all of the Woodward family died younger, and of course Dad died when he was 47 years old, but Merrill's 90 and he's still living, and Ned's 80 and he's still living, and everybody's, and we wonder why that things turned out that way. I mean, now we drank water out of the creek and out of the springs and wherever we could find it out on the farm, and now they talk about water and eating. Of course, we ate everything that anybody ever produced, I guess, and have, and Merrill's been around the world 5 times, and you wonder what took place in our life that changed our living or didn't change our living. Is there an answer for it? I don't know.
Medicine's a little bit more improved, I guess. That probably helps.
Well, you and I have been real lucky.
Yeah.
There was hard times, and then there was mostly good times. We've got a lot of grandchildren now, and so far, so good. Whitney gave us a big scare, but we're very fortunate. And as Ross said, I think all the grandchildren were in college for 19 years, wasn't it? That took. We had a grandchild in college. So they're all out now. proud of all of them. And our new great-grandbabies. And I hope we'll have a lot more.
Sometime in the future.
Mm-hmm.
sometime in the future.
Yeah.
What's it like, Grandpa, when you're out in the field and you're sitting there at the end of the field and watching Dad and Austin, and sometimes we've been out here and you've had the John Deere A, which is the first tractor you guys had, and
Yeah.
what's it like to see them all out there in the field together?
Well, that's what I guess our life has been about, and we're proud of it. And I don't know what else I would have liked to have done that would have changed it. I started out liking to hoe weeds in the garden, or hoe weeds in the cornfield, or hoe weeds in the oats field, and I still like to go to the field to watch them harvest, planting, raising, and harvest. So that's my lifetime, I guess.
All right. Well, that's all I really got. I think we're good. Unless you think of anything else. Any other funny stories about the kids, or you had some good baby pictures of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take all those, Grandma?
I took a lot of pictures of. Mm-hmm. They're not digital.
Nope.
No.
Some of them are now, though.
Yes, I know. Well, we've been real fortunate.
Okay. All right, I think we're good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
And your name is?
Oh, you can catch me on the evening news.
Okay.
If only I made that kind of money. Okay,
That's a wrap.
I'll help you get the mics off of you.
Oh,
Lord. Well,
Oh,
just like
Let me help you up, Grandpa.
probably will have to help him.
That's too soft down there.
Yeah, I mean, heck, he got into the combine the other day on his own, so
Yeah.
I don't know how he did
I
that.
don't know.
With 2 hip operations.
I wish I
don't
would've been
know
there
how
to
he
take
did that.